Okay, hi guys. Welcome back to another video. This time, instead of taking hematopathology, I'll be repeating with cytopathology because those of you who saw the last video on skin and subcutis, you know that someone requested me to make a cytopathology video on CNS cytopathology, and I have taken some lesions of CNS under different headings, but I have not taken it as a separate topic. So I thought, like, since we are ending with cytopath, after this I just have serous effusions left. So I'm going to take this lecture, and then again I'll take serous effusions in the next, and then just finish with cytopath. Hopefully this month, and we can start with hemat and histo the way we used to alternate from next month, because I don't want to stretch cytopathology too much now. So before I start the lecture, let me tell you that my experience with CNS cytopathology is not very much. I have experience of CNS biopsies. So I have taken help from a paper which I have referenced in the end. 90% of that lecture is from the paper. Whatever verbally I discuss with you is my experience with the cytopathology, and of course a lot of discussion is from that paper. So the author and the paper have been referenced in the end. I have no monetary gains through these videos, and these videos are not monetized, and I have no conflict of interest. And so let's begin. So before I begin, as usual, I would request you to please buy this book. This is my attempt at, bringing concising the malignant hematology into a small handbook and sharing it with you all. This is very cheap. It is just 225 rupees, and it is available on the website of Ahuja Publications. And I would request you to please buy it. I have got a lot of good reviews about this book now, since it has been almost a month. I launched it on 1st July on Doctor's Day. August, 2 months have passed, and I've got really good reviews for the book. So I'm really happy for all the support that you're showing this book, for all the good things that you're writing about it. And I just wish and hope that more and more of you would buy it. And please give me your feedback also, so that I can improve it. This is on malignant hematology, and if you like it, we are going to come out with something on benign hematology soon. I have got a few people who have asked me to come out with something similar in benign hematology. So to all the residents and all the practicing clinicians or pathologists out there, please go through this book once. This has everything that is there currently in hematology in just point format, with images, flowcharts and diagrams, in a small handy book, something like a Washington Manual of Surgical Pathology. Of course, it is not it's not a Washington manual, but I have taken inspiration from that, to make something concise and handy, and then written this book. So please support my book. Please share with your friends, and hopefully you're going to like it. So, in today's lecture, the points that we'll discuss is the difference between crushed smears and frozen sections, then difference between smear cytology and stereotactic biopsies, then a point to remember in any pathological field is, be it hemat, be it histo, be it cyto, even in urine examination, I'll give you a few examples when I do that, is that you need to be in contact with the treating physician or the surgeon, because a lot of times morphology is overlapping and confusing. Special and advanced tests take time, and if you want to give them a quick diagnosis, you need to know the clinical, you need to know the radiology and any other ancillary investigation that they have to give a proper diagnosis. Of course, I'll tell you about smear, how the smear, I will, since it's cytopath, I'll be dealing mainly with crushed smear preparations and how they are prepared and all that. I'll show you the WHO grading also, what are the points you need to keep in mind when reporting, so that you don't get caught in the pitfalls. And I've taken the images from this one paper. You'll need to go through this paper. This is a very, very, very nice paper for beginners. And I have referenced the paper in the end. I'll show you the paper, so please go and download that. So don't look at this. I've moved ahead a little fast. So when the difference between a crush smear and a biopsy is that a crush smear is normally, we don't normally do an CNS FNAC as such. So what you're going to get is that the brain was opened and you got a tumor, and they'll take a bit of it and they are going to put it between the slides, and with gentle force they are going to move the slides in opposite direction, crush the tissue, and that is all the cytopath collection that you get. Okay. And the next thing that they'll do is they'll take a stereotactic biopsy. Now the types of biopsy, the use of cold knife, gamma knife, all that you will need to know. Either you go through your surgery books, it is given there, or go through some papers. Basically, gamma knife is a cold knife, and using that cold knife, it prevents bleeding, prevents a lot of tissue damage when you are taking out that part of tumor that you want to send for histopathology. So that is what a gamma knife is, and that is what that is what is used in biopsies like stereotactic biopsies, where they minimize blood loss and provide a bloodless field, and you get a good tissue biopsy without too much burning, too much injury around the tissue, because brain is a closed space and a very, very sensitive area. The more the damage to the neurons, the more physical functions you lose. However, we are not going to be dealing with biopsies over here. What I'm going to be telling you is about crush smears and their preparation and how to analyze them. Before I go to the preparation of a crush smear, so this is the difference between a biopsy and a cytopath. We don't normally get FNACs from the central brain over here. Something in the spine maybe you can, but mostly preferred is crush smears. Okay. Before I go to how you prepare the smear, please go through these tables which is present in that paper. Now, whenever you are dealing with a CNS tumor, you need to know the radiology and the position, whether it is central, it is peripheral, it is supratentorial, it is infratentorial. Its relation, its position in relation to the dura, to the ventricles, everything you need to know before you go to the diagnosis on pathology. Because a lot of tumors might mimic them in morphology, but the location helps you in determining what tumor it will actually be. Okay? And in crush smears, they are sending you a crush smear because they want a quick report. The difference between a crush smear and a frozen section is that a frozen section, they're going to send you a biopsy, but just like a stereotactic biopsy, and you process it like a proper frozen section in your cryostat. Crush smear is also given on the operating table. They will make you prepare a smear and give it to you, or you will prepare that smear when they give you the tissue. But you don't process it like a frozen section. You process it like an aspiration slide. So that is the difference between the second point, that was between frozen and crush smear. And I've also told you the difference between a crush smear and a stereotactic biopsy. Fine. Now I'm coming to the point where preparation I'll come later, where you have to know about two things: the location and the grading. And this is what will help you in making a full complete diagnosis. Also, you need to stay in contact with your radiologist and your surgeon. So you know that there's a sheet of dura known as tentorial, Fox tentoria, and above that is supratentorial region. I'm not going to teach you the anatomy right now because I don't have the time right now, because it's short lecture. But when the dura stretches like this, it divides the brain into two parts: the supratentorial region and the infratentorial region. All the cerebellum, etc., all that is infratentorial, and cortex and all that part of it is supratentorial, part is infra. So this is just a vague, like, imagine there's a tent in your brain, and above that, and that tent is formed by the sheath, dura mater, etc., and above that there are certain tumors, and below that there are certain tumors. So supratentorial location, this location, I'll just change the color of the marker. What you get commonly are the okay, first is supratentorial and infratentorial, and then you need to see whether the tumor is in the midline axis or beyond that, so intraaxial or extraaxial. I have in this paper they have discussed the intraaxial tumors, and then they have divided it into adults and children, so that is what we'll do right now. Okay. So in the supratentorial tumors in the adults, you can get metastasis. Okay, commonly in children you don't get metastasis. So if someone asks you, so metastasis can happen anywhere, whether it is in supratentorial or infratentorial, commonly in adults. So that will be your first answer. Supra or infra, metastasis can be there. In infratentorial region, in adults, you get over here, you can get a hemangioblastoma. Where's my marker? Over here, you can get a hemangioblastoma. Okay. But in supratentorial region in adults, apart from metastasis, which is a common diagnosis, a common thing, you'll get astrocytomas and oligodendroglial tumors. So जो आपके दो basic tumors हम starting ही में पढ़ते हैं, astro and oligodendrogliomas, that you get in the supratentorial region, in the intraxial plane, with metastasis. Yeah, so adults का अब याद हो गया, oligo, astro. I'm just giving you the ways how you can remember. Oligo, astro, and metastasis. In the infratentorial region, metastasis and hemangioendothelium. Now come to children. In children, since there is no metastasis, so I prefer I'll remember this in through the morphology. The more infiltrating and the more pleomorphic and primitive tumors are in the supratentorial region. Like over here, you can see pleomorphic xanthoastrocytoma, diffusely infiltrating astrocytoma, and PNET. So the primitive tumor is a PNET, and astrocytomas, which are either pleomorphic or infiltrating, they are supratemporal. And the nice round ones, pilocytic, benign looking kind, are infratemporal. Pilocytic astrocytoma, medulloblastoma, and ependymoma. They have a very nice morphology. Ependymoma will show you nice pseudorosette. Medulloblastoma, nice cells, a little stretched or epithelioid kind or round. Pilocytic, you know, tail-like, hair-like projection, very well defined. So in children, whatever is well defined is below the tent, and whatever is pleomorphic is above. In adults, metastasis occurs everywhere. The common tumors that comes to our mind when we think of CNS is supra, that is oligoastro, and then hemangioendothelioma is infra. So that is how I have remembered this. Okay, now what is more important for you is to learn the grading of WHO tumors, CNS tumors, which is given over here. Now, this is not the complete thing. The grading is done on morphology, and the basis of grading it is, you see for necrosis, you see for mitosis, you see for pleomorphism. Okay, but not necrosis is a definite thing. Fine, but mitosis is also, but pleomorphism can sometimes be like NC ratio can vary and isonucleosis can be there, but that alone won't make the grade high. All these three things should be there together in any tumor. Now this WHO CNS grade tumor has been updated with molecular pathology. You need to know where deletion of 1 and 19 will be there, where you are going to look for IDH, and there's an entire panel which will differentiate now between an oligo and an astro and other tumors. So you please read in Washington Manual of Surgical Pathology. They have given this, and there's a publication also which gives it in. I'll take that up. Excuse me. I'll take that up when I'm going to be taking histopathology. Excuse me. When I'll be taking histopathology, they have divided it as per the molecular mutations now. So this is just a morphological grading. This helps in telling the surgeon that this is a high grade or a low grade, stage 4 or so, but you need to go to the molecular and see what code IDH1 mutation kahan hota hai, 1P and 19 ka kya role hai. You need to know that, because that is what is going to be asked from you. Okay. So let's come to the smear preparation now. So this, when you take that tissue, that biopsy piece on the slide, and gently take the slide, these are two slides, and move it in opposite direction, not in the same direction. Or you don't need to keep one stable and then just move one. You're not making a smear. You're crushing it, so both will move like this in a gentle motion. After that, when the smear is fixed immediately for 1 minute in isopropyl alcohol and 5% glacial acetic acid. Section is put down to water. Then the step of 80% and 70% alcohol, followed by again 5 dips in water. This is for those who want to do a smear preparation. You can just screenshot this. 5 minutes in hematoxylin, then 4 dips in water, then in acid alcohol. Here you use 1% again lithium carbonate. Then this could be the bluing agent over here, lithium carbonate. Okay. Then 4 dips in water, 10 seconds in eosin, then again water, then dehydration and rehydration, the steps you know. and then xylene before you mount. Okay, this is not done in a routine Leishman gym sustaining way. This is an H&E protocol for crush smears. So now comes the important part, that when you see a CNS, either a biopsy or a crush smear, what are the questions that need to come to your mind? This is in general for any tissue. And I always prefer starting from the scanner and going to high power rather than starting directly from a high power. So first you are going to see कि ये tissue का origin क्या है? What is the origin of this tissue? Is supposing it is just tumor and no normal tissue is identified, then you move ahead from there. But first thing that you always see is there some area of normal tissue in the smear, in the biopsy that we have got? So first thing is, can this be from a normal tissue? Then you come, then after that you come to the point, is it a normal, is it a malignancy or a benign lesion? Now the next third point tells you why this question is important, because sometimes, most of the times in CNS, in an amateur eye, gliosis mimics tumor. Gliosis mimics astrocytoma. So it's something which is just nothing but fibrosis, and in the brain you don't use the term fibrosis, the term uses gliosis, it is neural tissue. So gliosis has a lot of morphological changes in the cells which mimic a tumor. So if you open your Sternberg, if you open the differential book by Gattuso or the surgical, you will know, this is histopath actually, I'm telling you, that they see that if there's a lot of intense glial tissue proliferation, they see for a few things. They see the nuclear pleomorphism, then they of course see for necrosis, mitosis, then they see whether the nuclei are close together or separated. Okay, the more separated they are, the lesser the chances of it being a malignancy. Astrocytoma has more hypercellularity, so the nuclei are very close together of whatever astrocytic cells you are seeing. Then of course they see for any inflammation, they see for any other changes which might point towards an necrosis, infective benign pathology, a regenerative pathology, or also gliosis shrinks, tumor expands. So when you are looking at a histopathology slide and you see an area where you are confused कि pleomorphism, that area will be a shrunken area as compared to the surrounding area which might be normal, and tumor is always infiltrating and expanding and diffuse. So these points, there are more points, and I'm going to read, I had done it when I was doing my MD, and that is given in Sternberg. I'm going to discuss it with you when I read take up histopathology lectures, but this is just to tell you that remember these 2 points: cells close together, pleomorphism, and shrinking and expanding tumor. This is a layman way of ascertaining whether it is benign or malignant. Okay, then of course, could this be a neoplasm? Same thing I've told you. And what particular neoplasm could this be? So once you see a tissue and अच्छा this is a normal brain है और ये tumor है, तो ये junction दिख रहा है. Fine, this is junction of a normal and a tumorous tissue. Second, okay, this looks benign or malignant or gliosis, you have identified. Then, okay, this looks like a neoplasm. Then what neoplasm could this be? Now for that, in tumors of CNS, you need to look for a few things. The type of cell, angulated, spindle, round, what kind of cell it is. Background has fibrils or no. Third, any rosetting is there or not. Any primitive component is there or not. Means differentiation है कि सिर्फ ground root cells हैं, छोटे-छोटे cells हैं. Then are the cells together like tissue epithelial tumor ऐसा pattern है, cells are sticking together or they are scattered and diffuse. And last thing you see is whether vessels are involved with tumor cells inside the vessel lumen or not. Okay, so क्या-क्या हो गया on your fingertips? Background कैसा है, fibrillary और non-fibrillary, cell morphology कैसी है, ठीक है, cells are cohesive or cells are separated, then are the primitive cells or mature cells or both, and fifth point I've added myself, any rosetting which you can identify, and of course the last point again, any necrosis, mitosis, and degree of pleomorphism. Okay, all this you can see on crush smear too, most of these points. So this grading is actually done for crush smears. Otherwise, histopath will have the entire tissue. So when you get a crush smear and you're not, you can say, okay, fine, this is this could be an astro or an oligo. I'll show you in a head. Then what do you call a grade 1? A grade 1 is a tumor because you don't have the biopsy, which, and this is a probable grade 1, which is normally like an intramural nodule or just a cyst in the ventricular cavity. There's a neonode, but that is a very limited space occupying tumor. 2 becomes any lesion jiska crush mein, where it is a lot of infiltration. 3, when even in your smear you are getting a lot of mitotic figures and necrosis in the background with vessels pulled out. 4, of course, a lot of necrosis, pleomorphism, mitosis in the smear you can see. So this is either you will give a defined report or you will advise IHC molecular, or you can say no, the crush smear is inconclusive and advise histopath and further investigation. Okay. Now this is important. The images here might be a little blurred, so please go and read that paper. Now paper will come in the end. This is the last slide actually. So the first this thing that I wanted to show you in this over here is they have differentiated, the authors, between a normal cerebellum granular cell, जो कि normal layer होता है cerebellum का, and between a medulloblastoma. I told you it's infratentorial. ठीक है, you see, if you can see, say this cell. So you see that the cell has a lot of spickling like this. Chromatin core से ऐसे spickled है. And now if you see this cell, this one, okay, it is something like a homogeneous round cell. And sometimes you might get some eosinophilic kind of a cytoplasm. So this is the difference between a malignant round cell and a benign round cell, a granular cell and a medulloblastoma cell. This is all you can catch on a crush smear. Secondly, they have shown you the a slide of choroid plexus and how you can confuse a choroid, simple choroid plexus with a papilloma. Papillomas are normally 3-dimensional. Okay, overlapping, finger-like. So you will get sheets or these finger-like projections like this. And choroid plexus itself, if it comes, might give these small papillary configurations. So look at the entire slide and then look for large 3-dimensional sheets and then only label something as a choroid plexus papilloma. Because a normal choroid plexus also has small papillae which will come as small finger-like, not large 3-dimensional sheets. Fine. Then this is reactive gliosis over here, where you will get cells like these, pleomorphic, but you'll get a lot of inflammation in the background. So that inflammation, or you might get stromal crushing of the glial fibrillary tissue. So you need to find that when you are going to make a diagnosis of a astro or something. Look for inflammatory cells, look for foam cells, histiocytic macrophages, and you'll know the inflammatory process. So this is gliosis actually. Okay, anaplastic, this is anaplastic astrocytoma. You see these lot of pleomorphisms. Some cells are essay, some cells are round, some cells are dark, dense, chromatic, and this is a mitotic figure actually. So this is a tumor, this is an anaplastic astrocytoma. Okay. Then pilocytic astrocytoma, you will get these Rosenthal fibers. And these pink cells over here, background is fibrillary, but these Rosenthal fibers are very diagnostic of a pilocytic astrocytoma. Then comes the ependymoma. See, this is a choroid plexus. You get these small papillae, but ependymoma you will see such a large pseudorosette over here. So rosetting jahan aa jati hai na, and the cell looks like a vascular rosette. So pseudorosette, no true vessel is there, but as if it is a vascular vessel ke around jaise rosetting ho rahi ho. Then that is an ependymoma. Medulloblastomas have rosetting like neuroblastomas. Okay, cells forming a proper rosette, no feeling of having something vascular in center. Okay. Then of course you will get meningiomas. Now in meningiomas you can get spindle cells, you can get sheets. So or 3D class. So this is a meningioma over here. Okay. And schwannomas, because meningioma can happen even over here, and schwannomas can happen over lower part also. So schwannomas, in schwannomas you will get diffuse sheets of spindle cells with fibrillary background. Meningiomas give more of an epithelial tumor look mostly. So that is how you can differentiate. Then of course radiology is there to correlate. Then see the difference between an oligodendroma versus an astrocytoma. Round cells, nice round cells, not as hyperchromatic as this one. This is oligodendroma. Stretched angulated cells, see over here, see this is an angulated cell, see like this. This is seen in astrocytoma. And then finally you get a primary CNS lymphoma. You get a lot of lymphoid cells, you might get a vessel, with cells in center because it is a crush smear. It is not an FNAC. So you'll get some tissue morphology. So these are the kind of variety that you can see. So you can remember it as, look at the nuclear hyperchromasia, look at pleomorphism, look for rosetting, look for any benign component in the tumor to call it gliosis, and that is how you can give them a direction and then just advise histopathology on crush smear and move ahead with that. Okay, so this is a paper by Pant R. It is there in Journal of Pathology of Nepal. Although this is an old paper, but the approach is very good. So don't follow the classification given in this paper. The classification has changed. Follow the classification from either your WHO or the latest WHO or the Washington manual. It has the updated classification and molecular. But approach I really liked in this paper. So please go ahead and read this paper for the approach to a crush smear cytopathology. So I guess that's it, and I hope you like it, and I'll again request you to please buy my book and share with your friends. And next we'll again meet with a cytopathology lecture, finish with cytopathology, and then start with histo and hema. So thank you so much.